Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your player partner, Cardo Mac, chilling here in Modesto, California at the House of Rest Church with the legendary rapper, R&B artist, MC Boulevard.
What's
How are you
happening,
doing?
Ricardo? How you doing, man?
Good. It was nice meeting you yesterday. Did a
Nice
performance
meeting you
here
too.
in Series.
Yes.
Yeah.
First time.
First time? Yeah.
First time in Series.
Did a great show. Had the crowd all hyped up.
We had a
You did your
Holy Ghost
thing.
party, brother.
Oh, yeah. You could see it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it was a great performance. I appreciated it.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you grew up.
Well, let me start off as a youngster, little boy. I want to start there because it ties into what I want, my message. I grew up in a very violent domestic violent home. Unfortunately, my parents didn't get along, and so I saw a lot of domestic violence, a lot of things a little boy shouldn't see. So that because of that, I ventured into bad behavior, just delinquency, and just hanging out on the streets with the fellas, late night, not listening, not really caring about school, and
So you witnessed all that firsthand as a child.
right,
Yeah.
right, and that led me to, a few years down the line into just getting involved with the wrong crowd, just getting involved in gangs.
Oh, what city did you grow up in?
At first, I was in L.A., and then my mom moved us to the San Fernando Valley, thinking that would change, but it just made things worse. I just continued to seek, those individuals, that the homies, the cholos, that crowd. And that's who I looked up to. That's who I kind of embraced as my pseudo family, my brothers, my big brothers.
What geared you to go towards that type of people?
They look cool, and they had what I thought was respect. People feared them. Nobody messed with them. I came from a vulnerable state. I didn't have any control seeing those domestic violence situations as a youngster, so I wanted it. I thought having respect, having control meant I equalized it to violence. And I seen these big homies taking care of business on the streets, and I
That's
want
what you
that.
wanted.
Yeah, it was attracting. It was magnetic. So that's a little bit of my background. I know it sounds very negative, but just wait, it's going to change.
That's the beginning of it.
That's the beginning of my story.
So at what age did you decide that you wanted to start getting into music? What was your motivation?
Since a little boy, I remember 8, 9 years old watching Soul Train, watching live performances by Al Green and Smokey Robinson.
You think one day I'm gonna be up there?
Yeah, I loved R&B. I loved soul, Michael Jackson, Prince, and I loved what they were doing back in the early '80s. It influenced me a lot.
So as a child, one day you thought, I want to do that.
Yeah, it made me feel good. The music, it took me out of my environment. It took me out of that situation
For a moment, yeah.
for that moment,
Yeah.
And so I started mimicking them. I started, singing like them, moving like them. And then hip hop came into the picture. Groups like Sugar Hill Gang and Eric B. and Rakim, LL Cool J, all from the East Coast, where it started, in the Bronx and Brooklyn.
So that was more relatable to you because it was from the streets.
Right. It was all street, more so than the R&B. But I love the R&B, so I mixed it, and I've always had that in my music, a mixture of R&B and rap.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced being a Chicano in the music industry trying to come in?
Well, just being a Chicano within itself, we weren't really getting airplay. Just also the mixture, I was different. I was a different artist. I really stood out because I rapped and sang.
Mm-hmm.
I did both. I didn't have another rapper, or I didn't have another singer. I did both, and that wasn't really happening at that time in 1991.
So you started rapping, but you ended up singing R&B.
Exactly. And so that was different. That was kind of a challenge because people weren't, not too much. It wasn't
being Chicano,
popular.
they saw you more as a rapper.
Right. It was weird. You know, now everybody does it, but back then it wasn't heard of. You know, I was ahead of myself in that
You're ahead of your
arena,
time, yeah.
ahead of my time. So that was a challenge, and and then rapping in Spanglish, you know, in the Chicano slang.
Which
Calo.
in the beginning, well, Frost was doing it, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was going to be a thing, but then it just kind of stopped in the early
Yeah,
90s.
kinda.
Yeah.
The momentum stopped, but it continued in the underground.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, you know, another challenge was not too many DJs would play our music, but there was one exception.
What was that?
That was Angel Baby from Radio Aslan. He would play us. DJ Trip would play us, who was another associate of Angel Baby. Mark Anthony from Radio Bilingüe Fresno would play us. So all these like college, university DJs would pick up our music, especially I Remember You Homie, and play us.
You think it's because they were able to do it, or did the other ones have to follow like a certain program?
They were able to do it because they called more shots, because it was more public radio.
Mm-hmm.
They had more control of their playlists than versus a DJ in the mainstream on an FM station that is run by a program director or a program manager, that they call the shots and they tell the DJs. I don't know if it's like that nowadays, but back then
That's
it
how it's
was
gonna
the
be.
program
Yeah.
directors that called the shots.
So all those were AM stations, the one you're talking about?
I think except I know Angel Baby was AM, but I think Radio Bilingüe is FM,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still around. Now it's by Henry Lozano.
Mm-hmm.
He's still playing the oldies, the old school, the Chicano rappers. They emphasize that a lot because it's a Chicano kind of station. You know what I'm saying? They want to promote their peeps, their culture.
Mm-hmm. So what made you want to get more into R&B versus rap?
I'm glad you asked. The reason is because I was given the privilege to start opening up for the legendary oldie singer, Bretton Wood.
Legend, yeah.
Yeah, the legendary Bretton Wood. And he opened up doors for me in the early 90s as far as like performing at different venues, different events. I would open up for his shows. And as part of doing that, I started, you know, just hanging out with him, hanging out with the other oldie bands like Sly Slick and Wicked. And
What was that like?
I was in a dream, bro. These are people I grew up listening to.
People would, only dream about doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I grew up listening to them. I bump them, you know, all the time. And I'm over here watching them practice, you know, watching them harmonize, eating lunch with them, you know.
So you
just
were learning a
kicking it.
lot just watching them.
Watching them, I was a student. I was a student, and it influenced me a lot. I love their harmonies. I loved, especially when like the Delphonics were harmonized, or the Shy Lights, or the Dramatics. They were, man, it was amazing. I want to do that. I said,
So it was hanging out with them that made they heavily influenced you.
heavily influenced me. So I wanted to start doing that, so I started incorporating that in my songs. And one of the first songs I incorporated that style was "I Remember You, Homie," because I sing in the beginning of that song. I sing, and then I do a little singing, like how can I say it? Mixture of rap and singing within the verses, and then at
That
the
part
end,
really stood out to me when you do that. Yeah.
and then at the end, I sing again. So I liked it, and I kept doing it, and I still do it to this day.
So how did you actually get the name MC Boulevard?
We were always on the boulevard.
I always liked that name. That was a hard name.
Thank you, brother. Rapping on the boulevard, breakdancing on the boulevard, pop locking on the boulevard, cruising on the boulevard, everything on the boulevard, fighting on the boulevard. You know, came
The
with
lifestyle
the
was on the
territory.
boulevard.
You know, especially if you're affiliated. You know, just the lifestyle on the boulevard. I wanted to be. The boulevard was happening, and my music's happening, and my lyrics are happening. So
Did you
I am the
choose that
boulevard.
name, or did somebody give it to you?
I chose the name.
You chose it. You purposely chose it.
I purposely chose the name. And then MC, because back in those days, all of us called ourselves MCs, Masters of Ceremony, microphone controllers. You know, being an MC was a privilege and an honor.
So in 1993, you actually get your first record deal with ITP Records.
Right, with Alan Beck,
With Alan Beck,
the
yeah.
president of ITP Records.
How did that come into place?
Well, he was Brenton Wood's manager. So as I was performing, he liked the fact that people were drawn to my music.
They gravitated to you. Yeah.
Gravitated. They enjoyed it. They applauded it. They wanted it. So
he was watching you perform. It's not like somebody told him, "Hey, this
no,
guy
he watched me
Boulevard."
perform about a year in the clubs, in the venues.
And he saw the potential in you.
He saw the potential, right? And he came up to me and said, "Hey, why don't we do back then an album, right? Let's do an album." And I already had showed him I Remember You, Homie, and plus some other songs. So he was like, he liked it, bro. He was prendido. He liked the homie. He liked the homie. Because he's seen a lot of homies at Brenton Wood's concerts. I mean, that 90% of the audience were homies, were the lowrider crowd.
Dollar signs.
That's right. Businessman.
Okay.
So I appreciate it because he gave me an opportunity. I was just a youngster from the hood.
And there's very few that would give the opportunity. Like you said in the beginning, it was a struggle.
It was a struggle, and there wasn't too many of us. You know, and he knew I was a homie. He knew I was a gang member, and he wanted.
That was never an issue?
Well, it was, especially if the enemies were in the crowd, because they, you know, the potential to be a fight. You know, there was going to be something going down violently. So that was a concern. So he encouraged me to really take the career serious. You know, take the music serious, and
trying not to focus too much on what's going on in the street.
Yeah, because that wasn't about being a studio gangster or being a gangster rapper, really. If you hear I Remember You, Homie, it's really a positive message. It's a message to a little kid that wants to get rushed into a gang, and I just tell him a story between me and a homie that got killed.
Which I Remember You, Homie was released on that album. And what's the backstory behind that?
Well, that was
that's probably your biggest record, right?
I'm known for I Remember You, Homie. I mean, people don't even know my name, but they'll say, "Hey, you're I Remember You, Homie guy. You're the I Remember You, Homie guy." That was a dedication to a homeboy that got killed in 1991.
So that's based on a true story?
That was based on his story, but I made that song. I made it seem like it's just him, but it's really the homies that got killed at that time. But I condensed it to him. Mm-hmm. But within the story, I don't want to confuse you, but within the story, there's other homies that I'm talking about. But I'm just not distinguishing it. I made it seem like it's just one.
Just the act in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is actually a dedication of them. Specifically Whisper. That was his name.
That was your good friend?
Yeah, that was my good friend that got killed. Yeah.
And so that was the motivation behind that song?
That was the motivation. The motivation really was that he got killed. He was the first one that I experienced getting killed. The motivation was the mom's, she was just in pain. She was in torment. That was her only son. So that
was the first time you seen a mother break down like that?
Exactly. She wanted to throw herself, one of those experiences where you see a mother wanting to throw themselves in the coffin when it was going down. I mean, it was.
So you just wanted to share.
I wanted to express something. I wanted to express a T-shirt or a sweatshirt with his name wasn't enough.
The song's a lot more powerful.
I felt like
a lot more people.
The song was, but it was intent for her, for the mom. I didn't intend it to be a song for the masses. That wasn't my first intention.
Did she ever hear it?
Yeah, I did it at the wake. At the wake. Oh. It was a poem. I did it on a paper. I didn't really have a melody to it, but I read her the words. The words of I Remember You, Homie. I read it, and she started crying. And then since I was already with, Alan Beck, and I also want to mention Don Peak, because he's the producer. Alan Beck was the manager and the label, but Don Peak was the one that produced I Remember You, Homie in his studio. So I got to give Don Peak all the props for helping me out.
So he brought the instrumental to you?
So I brought the ideas because it's the background's that oldie, Just Be Thankful for What You Got
Yeah.
by William Devon. So I gave him the ideas and the concepts, and since I'm not a musician, he was the musician. He composed it. He put it all together, and I just rapped. I got
Is
down
that
on
exactly what you were expecting?
it. Nah,
No? It came out better than you thought?
came out better than I thought. Yeah, it came out way better than I thought, and it hit. And then it's just you got to be at the right places at the right time for things to happen, to click. And it just so happened that I was at a party type of thing for someone that I knew, and it so happened to be that one of Edward James Olmos's actors of the movie American Me was at that party, and this girl said, "Why don't you?" Because I already had done "I Remember You, Homie," and she's like, "Why don't you perform that song, in front of my family?" I said, "All right," I did it, and he was there. The actor was there. His name's Danny, and he goes, "Man, I love that song, man. We're doing a filming of the making of American Me called Lives in Hazard. The purpose of why Edward James almost did it."
They have like a little documentary thing on the DVD, huh?
Right.
That's where I saw you on there
Right,
too. Yeah.
right. So he said, "Can you perform that?" And I was really militant. I was really militant, so I told him, "Yeah, that's not a problem, but it has to be in my neighborhood." And so they did. And it's on the DVD of American Me. The making of it. It's called The Making of American Me. And so they featured I Remember You, Homie, me performing it live with the little boombox in an alley.
Yeah, that was actually your neighborhood. That's
That
pretty
was
cool.
where I grew up.
Yeah.
That was my neighborhood.
So what was your experience like being involved with the film American Me?
It was cool, man. Edward James almost...
Oh, you got
great
to interact with him?
Yeah, down to earth. Down to earth guy. Encouraging. Really encouraging. Just, encouraging me to, hey, the sky's the limit, brother.
I would have liked
don't
to see
limit
you in the
yourself.
film. That would have been pretty cool.
They already had done it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I came in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just grateful that he just featured my song on the
still
making
part
of
of
it.
it, yeah.
I'm still a part of it. And it was an important part of it because it showed the reason and the purpose as to why he did American Me. And you could see it in that documentary called Lives in Hazard. He used a lot of homies that were from that neighborhood in L.A. called Hazard. And so...
you can tell it's the real deal, not actors.
No, they were the real deal. A lot of them got shot because of the movie.
Sad situation. Yeah.
There's one, Capone. His name was Capone. He got shot 18 times. And
Because
lived.
of the movie? Wow.
And lived, yeah. And then the lady, she was a gang counselor. I forget her name. Sorry, but she got, she
Yeah, I remember
she
seeing
passed
her
away.
on the behind the scenes. Yeah.
Mhm. So it was an important thing. And like I said, I was honored to be a part of it.
Do you think it reached a lot of people?
I think so, yeah. In 1994, it was featured on NBC, presented by President Bill Clinton.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Little history right there. Yeah, so it was like worldwide, not just nationwide, worldwide. Because back in those days, I know there's still, gangs and gang violence, but
It was extreme back then.
It was off the hinges back then. Early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. It was an explosion.
On your first album, you had a track called "Gangster and a Priest,"
Yeah.
featuring Roger.
Yeah, Roger Troutman.
That's
The
crazy.
funk master.
Yeah. How'd you get him on there? Because a lot of people have sampled him before, but you actually got
Everybody
him
and
on
their
there.
grandma sampled him.
Yeah.
Back in the days. Alan Beck, and that Alan Beck not only had a record label, ITP Records, but he also had Pacific Concert Group, which was really like an old school concert, kind of like what Art LeBeau does nowadays. Same thing, Alan Beck started that.
So he had all the connection with
So
all
he
the
had
artists.
connections from all the funksters, all the oldies,
Everything you listen to.
all the soul, everything that we listened to, that I listened to. So that's how he met Roger Troutman and Zapp.
So whose idea was it to get him on your album? Is that just something you wanted?
Mine. I
yourself?
kept
Yeah.
asking.
Oh yeah.
The Bible says, "Ask and you shall receive." I kept asking, can I do something with Roger? Because he's my favorite, you know? He was one of my favorites. And so, behold, to my surprise, one day I got that phone call and said,
You got the
Roger,
blessing.
yeah, he heard, because I already had written Gangster and a Priest, and I've done it on another track, another type of beat. So he fell in love with the concept and the words of that song. And so he said, I have to redo it, though. I said, no problem. Please redo it. You're much better at beats than I am. So, yeah, I was really excited, man. I was really excited. It's a good time.
So were you actually in there in the studio with them, or they
I
just
was
presented
with
you the
them.
track? Oh,
I was with them.
That's an experience right there.
Great experience. I'll never forget that experience. Funny guy, like a comedian, like funnier than Kevin Hart. And
Oh, yeah?
funny guy.
Yeah, he looks pretty funny from some of the interviews I've seen him. Look like a cool down-to-earth person.
He'll break your ribs. Just he had jokes galore and just really down to earth and really like he was the real deal, man. One of the best entertainers I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, yeah. On your second album, you had Barbara Mason featured
Right.
on it, right?
Yeah.
So was
another
that also
legendary.
Alan Beck?
Also Alan Beck. Barbara Mason, Brent Wood, Roger Troutman, because of the connections with Alan Beck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience as well. I've been very blessed. Because think about it. I was like 20, 21, 22, you know.
From the hood?
From the hood, just got out of YA when I was 18. So just a few years after that, I'm over here with, singing with these legendary.
What are the odds?
I think you could hit the lottery for that, I'm really blessed. There was a reason why I experienced that, and it has to do with today, But yeah, Barbara Mason, man, she was like a little older, because she started really young, and she was this was back in 94, 95, and she still had the pipes, bro.
How did she feel collaborating with you?
She says, you're a very talented young man, she told me. Very talented young man. Very, very delight. She was very
She was
like,
feeling it.
She was feeling it. She goes, you have a lot of soul, young man. It was a delight to be recording with you.
That's quite a compliment.
Bro, I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say, man. I was like, Barbara Mason, yes, I'm ready.
And for your third album, you end up doing Christian music, right?
Yeah, let me backtrack a little bit. So I got saved in the year 2000.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you what caused the events.
To be honest with you, I had there were good times in the Alan Beck days and the car shows and the Thump Records and the American Means and I Remember You Homies and all that life. But to be honest with you, I got caught up in a lot of addiction, a lot of drug and alcoholism. And it was so much so that I was really hurting myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way, in my whole life. And so I was in that era, in that time, I got to meet a lot of pastors, believe it or not, because they loved I Remember You Homie. Mm-hmm. Because they're pastors that were like ex-homies, ex-cholos.
They could relate to it. Yeah.
It was very relatable, and they really liked the positive spin that I put on it. So they would invite me to, these outreaches, like Victory Outreach and Teen Challenge and Praise Chapel. These type of ministries would invite me to their outreaches, like the one you kind of seen yesterday. Last night. But that was in a building. These were, the ones I'm talking about were on the streets, in the neighborhoods. And so that had a big impact on me.
It was real direct.
It was direct. It was raw. It was real. And they presented the gospel to me, the truth of who Jesus was, what is sin, what is salvation, what is all that? What does all that mean?
Were you seeking for it at the time, or?
I wasn't seeking specifically that, but I was seeking something that would help me. Yeah. I needed help. I was all messed up. I was addicted especially to alcohol, and I couldn't kick it. I couldn't, positive willpower or whatnot. It just wasn't cutting it for me. But this gospel that was presented to me, I started listening, and then I believed it. And once I believed it, once I put my faith in who Jesus is and Jesus Christ and why he died on the cross and what it means to me, and I was able to get what we call deliverance. I had deliverance in my life. I was set free. The Bible talks about being set free from addiction, which is all sin. It's sin. The Bible talks about sin. I was set free. I was delivered, and I felt like my life, I had another chance.
Were you able to drop everything just from one day to another, or
No, it was a struggle with certain things. With some things, yes.
I think that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Giving my life to the Lord happened that instantaneously. I said, yes, Lord. One day in the year 2000, I said, yes, Lord, to him. And then, so that happened instantaneously. But the cleaning up part, from like performing with the oldies and all that that took time. That took a few months, even a year.
Lifestyle change.
It was, yeah, because that was income. That was the bread right there and the butter right there. So that was a struggle. I really had to step out in faith and say, okay, what is out there for me? I've been doing it for 5-6 years, I got used to it. So, but I knew that I had to, if I was going to really commit and surrender, I knew what being real was about. I mean, I was a gang member. Mm-hmm. You got to be real. You can't rank out. You can't be a lever. You got to represent. You got to represent your neighborhood to the fullest. And so I knew what that was. I understood that. So I understood that, that applied to that lifestyle. Well, it also applies to my Christian lifestyle. I have to be real about it. I have to live it. So if I'm going to live it and be real about it, I have to leave that lifestyle and those habits and those behaviors and that mindset. I have to leave it behind. The Bible says that when we come to Christ, we're a new creation. God creates a new character, a new behavior, a new spirit, his spirit within us. So I knew that, understood that. And so I had to make that commitment, and I did. But it took a little while, and I'm glad I did, bro.
So then you decide to focus all that energy into music.
Into now Christian music. Yeah. So what the Lord had me do is redo a lot of covers from oldies and old school and also hip hop. But mostly I'm singing a lot now, more days than I used to. A lot of my songs are R&B songs that I'm singing on, with a little bit of raps here, little 16 bars here and there within the songs. But they're mostly covers right now. Like I cover a lot of old school funk, a lot of oldies. As a matter of fact, we have a whole CD set called Holy Rolas. We're working on volume 2 right now. And I do that with another brother. His name's Sal Perez. He's a pastor. So I'll be plugging that in.
I really like the flavor that you guys bring to it.
Yeah. It's the flavor we grew up with, And I think my generation, we really appreciate that because of course, we grew up with it. But the young generation I see some of them, not all of them, but some of them are inclined to it. And I see them bobbing their heads to it. And so I feel like we're capturing some of them too.
You also have some music videos out too, right? Jesus Saved My Life.
Jesus Saved My Life. That was done in Dallas, Texas, with the Ministry of Victory Outreach in Dallas, Texas.
You just happened to be out there.
I happened to be out there, and it just got that itch. Let's do a video with this song, Jesus Saved My Life, which was a cover of that old school song, the DJ Saved My Life.
Yeah.
Last night, a DJ saved my life. Well, I said, you know what? You know who really saved my life? Jesus saved my life. So I just flipped it up, and I said, let's do a video. And it was just like a little car show. Spontaneous. So we showed like a car show. We showed what we do. reach people in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and everyone looks like they're having fun.
We're having fun. We're marching down the street, just mobbing down the street, preaching the gospel, praying for people, giving them food, giving them blankets, and giving them the gospel.
Another track that I really like of yours is Father with MC Magic.
Right, MC Magic, brother.
That's a great song, yeah.
Yeah, that was an awesome song. That wasn't our first idea. We were working on something else, but I think that was a God thing, because what we were working on didn't really pan out. And then all of a sudden we were like, what are we going to do? And then I just told Magic, you know what, let's just pray and let's just meditate on God, and God will show us. And then boom, before you know it, hey, Magic, I got something. And he's like, what? I said, why don't we do Father, Father, Father? Wait, what did you do? And you know how Magic has his little top box from Roger Troutman? And he put it in his mouth, the tube. And he said, do that again. And I said, oh, Father, Father. And then Father with his, tube. And boom, we did it within that day, like within a few hours. And I know that's God, because when you do things like that, instantaneously and spontaneously like that, it's God. Because really,
and a lot of times they turn out amazing like that.
And it turns out amazing because we were inspired. What we thought we could do wasn't panning out. But once we really put the time and the thoughts and our energy into God and to asking Him to help us,
that's the first Christian track that I heard you on, because I was a big fan of MC Magic, and I was just looking through different videos of him playing the talk box, because at the time I was trying to learn how to play it.
Okay.
And then I saw you on there, and
oh, you ran into the video?
Into the video.
Yeah.
And then the way you killed it, the way you sang.
Yeah, we were singing and then rapping, and so he really got my vibe, and I got his vibe and his spirit and my spirit, and it just worked out, man. But a lot of kids, a lot of people love that song, but a lot of kids, young kids, everywhere I go, Christian or secular, it doesn't matter, kids gravitate. All I can say is the Spirit of God, It's just amazing.
It pulls you in. Yeah.
It pulls. And kids, I always believe like kids, because they're more innocent, they're really sensitive to the things of God, sensitive to the Spirit of God. Mm-hmm. And so they feel it. You know what I'm saying? They feel when when they hear that song, like you said, it gravitates them. It attracts them. It's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about tattoos. Sometimes I go over some of the tattoos
Mm-hmm.
that some of my guests have, but I don't see any on you. Do you have any?
I took the few that I had off.
You removed them.
I removed laser.
That's interesting. Oh,
it hurts more than when you put it on.
Think about it.
Yeah.
What was the actual reason why you decided to take them off?
A new lifestyle. But that's just me. I'm not saying, because you get the Lord in your life, you have to do it. No, that's a personal choice. The Lord, whether you have ink or no ink, to the Lord, it's your heart. It's what's in your heart. It's what's inside of a man, not the outside of appearance that God looks at. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was a personal decision to just remove the past that I could see on my skin, and it just helped me.
It's a constant reminder every day.
It was a reminder, and by taking it out, it just helped me to move forward. Yeah. To move forward, yeah. And I didn't have, thank God, I didn't have too many. I have like 3 or 4. I wasn't all sleeved out or anything like that, So I don't think I would be able to handle that. I know some that do, but
some do.
It takes a while, and I commend them. Hats off to them. But yeah, it was just a few with mine.
You have any merchandise that you sell?
Yeah, I sell shirts and CDs right now. I'm replenishing my shirts, but I do have CDs, and I do have now in the digital era, digital downloads you could do on iTunes, Spotify, CD Baby, and all those media outlets.
Do you have a website where people can find all that?
I'm working on a website right now. I did have one, but we had to, because of the domain problems I was having, we have to rename it. So I'll be working on that soon.
What about future projects?
Yeah, like I was mentioning, Holy Rolas Volume 2. That's a future project that's hoping to be released in November, December. So be in the lookout for that. Holy Rolas Volume 2. which is with me, MC Boulevard, and Sal Perez, and also featuring Sal Rodriguez, the drummer from the group War. He'll be on it, and other Christian singers that are known in the Christian world, Jimmy Sincerely and Pepe Gonzalez. We're all going to be featured on it, so it's going to be something good and exciting. And you know, a lot of Christians say they love it because it's a transition. You know, they're transitioning like me, like how I transitioned from the world to Christianity. Well, they say my music is a help in the transitioning part because it's familiar to their ear because of the old school and the oldies and the hip hop, but it has the word of God in replacement of what's in the worldly lyrics. So it helps them, it edifies them, it helps them draw closer to God.
What about social media? Is there any contact information where people can get at you if they want to?
Yeah, right now I'm using Facebook a lot. I had an Instagram, but I got hacked, man. So got the hack. So I'm working on that too. So I'll be fixing that real soon. But right now, Facebook, Robert MC Boulevard, if you search it up.
Do you have any advice for people that are struggling with gangs or alcoholism or drugs?
Yeah. Be true, man. Be true to who you are. You know, forget about the noises from the crowds, even family. Listen to yourself. Listen to what's going on within you when you're alone by yourself, away from the crowd, away from the distractions, and be honest with yourself. And if there's something within yourself that you're struggling with, you know, there is help. There is help. Now, there's help in the world through rehabs and programs and things like that. I'm not knocking those things. That's needed. But the most help, the help that really transformed me, not just put a Band-Aid over me, but took away the cancer, took away the disease that I had, was when I put my faith in Jesus Christ. Because when I heard the gospel and it transformed my life, I believed it. I put my faith in it. And I could sit here today looking at you with all honesty that I'm not the same person that I used to be. I don't have that disease of addiction that I used to have. I've been set free. I've been delivered. And that's because of the power of God through Jesus Christ. So that's my advice to you. Be honest with yourself. Move yourself away from those distractions, especially those that are not healthy for you, that don't mean well for you, don't have the best interest for you. Remove yourself from that. Get yourself in a secluded place and talk to yourself. Be honest with yourself. And if you find something, have the courage to seek the help that you need. The Bible says if you seek, you shall find. If you knock, the door will be open for you. That's what I did. I started seeking. I stopped pretending. You know, think everything was all right. I stopped because it wasn't all right. I pretended. But I stopped pretending. I became real with myself. So that's my best advice to you.
It's a powerful message. Great advice.
Thank you, brother.
You have any shout-outs before we go?
Shout out to you, bro, for putting Chicano Style TV and creating that. It's an awesome thing you're doing, and I'm going to continue to pray that God opens more and more doors for you. You
really appreciate it.
Blow up, man. The sky's the limit, you know, and I'll talk to people that I know that are Chicano influencers, and I'm hoping to establish a long-term relationship with you. Shout out to David Rocha for hooking us up.
That's right.
Pastor David.
Pastor David Rocha.
Yeah. And shout out to my wife. I love you, Vanessa. You're my backbone. You're the most important thing here on earth for me. My kids, Brianna, Robert, Elijah, and Aaliyah. I miss you guys. I'll see you soon. And Most of all, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
There you go. Interview with MC Boulevard. I'd like to have more time, but I know we're limited on time, but I really appreciate you coming over today.
Thank you,
and
brother.
it was a blessing to have you as a guest.
It was an honor.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're out.